What's up, everybody? It's DawgsHQ coming to you. Wish it was under better circumstances. Brock Bowers has had tightrope surgery to speed up the process of the healing process of a high ankle sprain at Vanderbilt. That's what we know. We're here to discuss everything else. And Rusty, now that we know that, what's next, man?
Well, obviously that had to be a decision that had to be through Brock Bowers' team. And, he has an agent. He has a complete team around him, marketing team, everything, which he should. And he's able to do that nowadays with the rules in college. So I'm sure there was a lot of discussions going on between Georgia and Brock Bowers and his family. And both sides came together and thought this was the best. And I said this on Sunday morning that regardless of what is going on, I was confident that Brock Bowers wants to play again at University of Georgia, and he wants to do what he can to get back. Now, it's easier said than done, this tightrope deal, this tightrope surgery. We've seen some examples of this, but when you get a high ankle, the kind of the word on a tightrope surgery is the target date is 4 weeks from that surgery date. And that's kind of the selling point of, hey, you do this. And if you look at Amarius Mims, and we don't know if Amarius Mims is going to play against Florida yet or not, but when we saw him 2 weekends ago in Athens, he was walking around like nothing was wrong with him. And that led you to believe that his surgery has went the way that probably should and progressed right now. So we'll see as we get closer to Florida, but that could be as well something that he looked at and said, look, Mims did it. He's on the recovery trail back. He's doing good. So we'll look at Amarius Mims as we get closer. But with Brock Bowers electing to do this, it gives you, Jake, that 4-week window, but it also tells you, hey, man, this guy's not normal. You know what I mean? Like he's wired a little different. So maybe can he get back in 3? I don't know. Now I will say this. I mentioned it on the Georgia show on our podcast that, I have heard of from one player in the SEC that got back in less than 2 weeks. That is very rare. So we will see, where Brock Bowers can be, but, everything I kind of know today and what, I don't see Brock Bowers playing against Florida with this type in no way, shape, fashion, or form. Now, what's going to happen after will be how his body recovers and how he heals. But sounds like, Jake, they've made the surgery now, and you're looking at that 4-week window, which would put you into the Ole Miss game week? Is that right?
Yeah, that would be right. And, listen, a non-expert opinion here, non-medical expert opinion, disclaimer. You look at a guy like Brock Bowers, you think about that injury, there's a lot of healing that's going to have to take place before he's ready to go, because he's a guy that, he's putting that foot in the ground a lot. He's blocking. And I'm not talking about he's not the kind of guy, Rusty, you can put, $30 worth of tape on his ankle and say, go get it, son, because he's got to have some flex there. He's got to have kind of all that, that full range of motion in a lot of ways. And, I think that Georgia definitely wants him back as fast as they can. And I'm positive number 19 wants to be back as fast as he possibly can. But this is also one of those things where, depending on, what player and, like an offensive lineman, a guy that's just playing offensive line, or a quarterback might be able to come back a little bit quicker from something like this than somebody else. But again, it's all dependent on how they heal. And Todd Gurley, one of the things I was looking up here before the show, Rusty, was Todd Gurley had a high ankle sprain back in 2013. He missed 4 weeks and did not have tightrope surgery. Now, yep. Todd Gurley is, I think, you and I were joking around about this whole thing a little bit, just kind of about how some of these guys are freak shows. And Todd Gurley's got that tiger blood, like he's got that kind of different, it does not surprise you that a guy like that would come back. And it may be the case with Bowers, but you can never tell that. You never know.
Yeah. You don't. So you look at that and there's so many questions there. Was he come back 100%? But, an 80% Brock Bowers is better than 95% of the players in college football. So that's a good sign. I think that the ultimate, end piece here is this young man did what he could do. And based off his decision from his family, his team, and University of Georgia, he did what he could do to get back to play this season for Georgia and give that opportunity there. So, you look at that and you start thinking about those games and, Florida, Missouri, and then you got Ole Miss, and then you got Tennessee. If they can get him back from Ole Miss, get him some reps in, get him some game speed, and those types of things, that would be massive going to Knoxville to have that player, have him on the field. He's such a weapon. So just like you said, the decision was made. And to me, that decision was clearly made with the end result of, hey, I'm going to play again for University of Georgia, and I want to help finish this thing off right. And that's by playing and helping my team.
Yeah. And honestly, it would shock me if anything else would have happened. Honestly, I mean, not necessarily from a surgery standpoint, but whatever decision was made, I felt like it was going to be made with the intent of him coming back and being involved. Okay, Rusty, let's talk about the interim, right? They're going to be without him for a little bit, 1, 2, 3 maybe games. What do they do? What the number one thing Mike Bobo does in that time? They're on a bye week right now. What are they trying to figure out?
Well, I think the biggest thing and the only blessing is this: they have a bye week about this situation, so they have time to kind of implement them.
Well, I've got one more, but I've got one more blessing they've got. But you go ahead.
I really think the change in philosophy of 12 personnel, they're not going to be so much 2 tight ends.
Yeah,
just because I don't think people understand how good Brock Bowers can block and what he does in that game. He's not a liability out on the edge. They're not afraid to use him one-on-one with someone, blocking and run game. So I think Georgia's got to go more to, 4 wide. They got to go more spread offense, and they've gotten the players. If Ladd McConkey's healthy, you got, Dominic Lovett and Ra Thomas and all these guys, and you want to turn this thing loose a little bit more. But I think you're not going to see them in 12 personnel as much. Even with Lawson Lucky back, I think he's a really, really good young player who's going to really help them some in the passing game. But I'm not sure Lawson Lucky is ready to be counted on, coming off an ankle injury. His physicality, they're going to use him as much. But I just think right now you look at Georgia, and I think the philosophy is going to be to spread this thing out a little more. And you're probably going to see a little bit more depth in the wide receiver thing. You're going to see more targets, I think, for Ra Thomas and Dominic Lovett.
Yeah, and the other blessing I had for Georgia is just the timing on the Ladd McConkey thing. Like, if you knew that Ladd was going to miss your first 4 games of the season and then come back, he's played in 3 games now. He's got a chance to get, and he's going to have the bye week to kind of try to work himself back into shape a little bit. One of the things that's key is like this, Rusty. If you're going to run a lot of 12 personnel, you want 3 healthy, capable tight ends, maybe 4. If you're going to run a lot of 11 personnel, you want 4, 5, 6 capable wide receivers. And Ladd McConkey's one of those guys, and he's one of those kind of playmakers that you can rely upon that's going to block his tail off out on the edge. You're going to need that. I 100% agree. The less 12 personnel, which is the 2 tight end stuff, you're going to see a lot of 3 receiver Oscar Delp, and it may be an opportunity. It may force Georgia and give them time to prepare this wrinkle of, like you said, maybe some 4 wide looks. I mean, you've got a really good blocker there, and Marcus Rosemy, who can kind of maybe come down and help you seal the edge if you want to try to run the ball outside. Maybe you spread teams out, and that's kind of the way you get the numbers that you need to get Daijun Edwards and maybe Kendall Milton going. Kendall Milton, by the way, I fully expect that he's going to be fine after his injury based on what I've heard there. Just a little bit dinged up right now. I know that's been a lot, but he ran the ball really well against Vanderbilt. I think he's going to be good for Florida based on the early indications there. So Georgia's going to have to adjust. And, this Mike Bobo's done this before. It's not like Mike Bobo's always been a 12 personnel guy. I mean, it's more 11, this year than it was last year. It's time to adjust. It's time for Oscar Delp to step up. It's time for him to shine, because Oscar Delp was going to either have to do it now or he's going to have to do it next year. One or the other, they're going to need number 4. So, and he stepped up big against Vanderbilt as well. So that's another thing you point to there. And I hate to say it, but I just have a hard time pointing to the true freshman at this point, especially when both of them have been dealing with injuries to this point in the season. I know Georgia fans are going to have high expectations. Oh, it's Lawson Lucky time, or, oh, it's Pierce Spurlin time. Maybe it is. I wouldn't bet on it. Not because I don't believe those guys are great players, but when young players miss a lot of time with injury, Rusty, it's hard. It's just hard on those guys. And Listen, I can tell you what Kirby Smart's thinking right now, or at least telling his team, is it's not on the offense, it's not on the quarterback, it's not on the offensive line, it's on everybody.
Yep.
Everybody has to grab a little bit of extra rope and pull a little bit harder because the guy's out, and that's what makes Georgia Georgia. And like you said, I do think a massive blessing for Georgia is this bye week.
100% agree with that. Yep.
All right, guys. Well, we had it for you here. We got the coverage for you over at DawgsHQ. Listen, subscribe, get 1 month for $1. I promise you will not be disappointed. You'll have access to us via the community. You will have the opportunity to see a lot of insider stuff, a lot of analysis, a lot of breakdown, and just a lot of fun. So come on over and see us over at DawgsHQ 1 month for $1. And we appreciate you guys watching, and y'all take care.